Hello, this is Eastern Europe Review, a joint production of BELSAT and TVP World with reports and analysis from Ukraine, Belarus and Russia. My name is Alexandra Shapalina and these are the main stories. Russian army advances in Ukraine's Donetsk region, several villages at risk of capture.
Obviously, things have become more complicated, and it's happening really fast. The enemy is highly skilled in electronic warfare and is making it very difficult for us, unfortunately.
Kursk Region residents desperately plead for help amid lack of attention.
I've got the impression that everyone involved has already forgotten about us. I mean, those who represent our government.
China considers importing brides from Russia, State Duma deputies voice opposition.
This ideology is a deliberate anti-demographic information sabotage against our country.
Following the withdrawal of Ukrainian forces from Vuhledar, Russian units have captured several settlements in the southern Donetsk region and are now advancing toward Karacan, which is only 10 kilometers away. The armed forces of Ukraine report that the town could face encirclement by the Russian army, which is advancing from 3 sides.
An American M113 Armored Personnel Carrier, or AMCA, as the Ukrainian military calls it, rushes to evacuate AFU soldiers from their forward positions near occupied Vuhledar. The noise of the APC's 5-liter engine drowns out the explosions of shells and bombs dropped on Ukrainian infantry by Russian aircraft only for a few seconds. At the same time, soldiers of the 148th Brigade of the AFU launched the Puma reconnaissance drone to detect Russian heavy equipment on this section of the front. The Puma is an American reconnaissance drone used by 20 countries worldwide. It is considered quite old, having first flown in 2007. According to the Ukrainian military, in modern warfare, this drone is more valuable to electronic warfare than its contemporary counterparts.
Since it's quite vulnerable to electronic warfare, it's more likely to be shot down and jammed.
If you fly over the occupied settlements of Vuhledar and Vodyane, you will lose contact with the drone.
It's turned around. Communication has been restored.
On this section of the front, the Russian army is blocking the skies with the same electronic warfare equipment, forcing Ukrainian drone pilots to find alternative routes and mark them on the map.
Obviously, things have become more complicated, and it's happening really fast. The enemy is highly skilled in electronic warfare and is making it very difficult for us, unfortunately. However, our task is to find effective ways to circumvent this electronic warfare.
This is how the Ukrainian military locates Russian Msta, self-propelled artillery launchers, Buk and Hyacinth air defense systems. One of them was spotted by these soldiers while Ukrainian positions were being shelled. It was destroyed by an FPV drone. During the firefight, a nearby reconnaissance team spotted 2 Russian tanks attempting to storm the AFU positions. After forwarding the coordinates to the artillery crew, the Caesar self-propelled howitzer took up a fighting position and hit one of the tanks on the move. According to soldier Maxim, the Russian army is making every effort to break through the AFU's defenses on this section of the front and advance toward Karacan.
It's just that in 15 minutes there can be 10 or 15 cluster bomb attacks, and you can't hide from them. The equipment that comes from the Russian side includes tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. It's anything and everything that moves. We also try to destroy motorbikes and everything that comes in our direction.
With Russian units advancing daily from the Vuhledar side, Ukraine is building defenses south of Karacan, Dachne and Constantinople, where fighting is expected to be a matter of time.
Residents of Russia's Kursk region are losing patience. Most state media outlets have largely ignored the challenges faced by border regions. Frustrated residents have started recording videos making direct appeals to the president for assistance.
This is a lie. You're aware of everything, but you've chosen to throw people out onto the street.
In the Kursk region, captured by the Ukrainian military, the victims of the war are growing weary of the indifference shown by the Russian authorities. They have recorded a video appeal to the Kremlin, demanding an immediate response.
Give us money so that we can buy homes and no longer live on the street, but under our own roofs, the ones you've taken away from us.
Due to the ongoing war, more than 100,000 Russians have lost their property and have been forced to become displaced.
I have a pension of 12,000, my husband receives 15,000, and we pay 25,000 for our apartment. I don't know how we're supposed to live. I beg you, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, help us. It's very, very hard in this difficult situation. Please help us.
According to Kursk refugees, they have been left to the mercy of fate. Sergei Yemelyanov, who is raising 9 adopted children, now has 14 family members living in a 2-room apartment.
I've got the impression that everyone involved has already forgotten about us. I mean, those who represent our government.
A representative of the Kursk refugees delivered a message to Moscow, addressing State Duma deputies and the presidential reception office. Yuri Tkachov, the head of one of the village councils, stood up for the residents and became a national hero on social media. He recorded an appeal in Yekaterinburg with the backdrop of the site where the last Russian emperor was killed.
I want to address our leader, the head of state, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. I consider myself a minor official, but my official position gives me a direct connection with people. I know every person in the village by face.
Entrepreneurs who have lost their businesses due to the fighting complain that they are still required to pay taxes. When they request a suspension of activity, tax authorities suggest shutting down their companies. Residents of frontline areas also report looting, sharing videos of ransacked houses and stores.
Either they were living here, or it smells like a homeless shelter. The place is a mess.
These images show territories under the control of the Russian army. Items left behind in the houses reveal the identities of those responsible for the looting. Homeowners who return often find traces left by Russian soldiers.
This is what happened to our house. There's a hole, probably from a bullet. Of course, there's no generator. The second floor was also completely stripped.
A local TV station reported on looting in the Kursk region. In a comment to journalists, a military police representative denied the scale of the problem, attributing it to the machinations of the enemy.
In my opinion, this is some sort of fabrication by the enemy. Our unit patrols the village of Korenova and nearby villages around the clock, and there's no looting as they claim.
The Kursk Region Human Rights Commissioner accused the regional government of deliberately ignoring citizens' problems. Speaking on state radio, he stated that destroyed villages were not included in the list of shelled areas to avoid issuing housing certificates. President Putin also did not address the issues in Kursk during the Unity Day meeting.
We arrived in Kursk, and there's not a single shelter, not a single one. Air raid siren, do you hear it? The air defense is working. The best defense right now is probably like this.
Chinese men have been urged to seek wives among Russian women in a proposal put forward by an associate professor from a Chinese university. According to him, imported brides could help address demographic issues in China. However, the proposal has not been well received in Russia.
Hard times call for drastic measures. In China, there is a catastrophic shortage of brides. There are nearly 35 million more men of marriageable age, and they risk remaining single. One proposed solution to this issue comes from Professor Ding Changfa from Xiamen University.
There are about 34.9 million single men in rural China who may face difficulties in finding a spouse as they need to provide a house and a car, and before that, pay a bride price. This can cost between $70,000 and $84,000. Last year, the average disposable income per capita in rural China was just over $2,800. Solving this problem may require attracting a significant number of eligible young women from abroad.
The gender imbalance in China stems from the government's long-standing one-child policy. From the late 1970s to 2015, Chinese families, with some exceptions, were allowed to have only one child. Parents who violated this policy faced large fines. In cases of low family income, many parents abandoned daughters or chose to have abortions upon discovering they were having a girl, leading to a disproportionate number of boys being born. Now, the country is facing the consequences of this policy and is considering where to find wives for its men. One proposed solution is to import women from Russia, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Pakistan, where there are more women than men.
From a historical perspective, we know two things. First, that wives were sometimes imported by royal decree. This was the case at the end of the 17th century in Canada, or as the British government did with convicts in Australia, entire ships of brides were sent, known as bride ships, at the same time. We know that either some form of royal authority was needed to order brides to be sent, or they had to be given incentives, such as additional money or privileges and so on. If the Chinese government pursues this idea, it may work.
The Russian authorities have not supported China's initiative. Nina Ostanina, a State Duma deputy from the Communist Party of the Russian Federation, stated that Russian women are needed in their homeland.
We have our own men who, it seems to me, are real in every sense. Our Russian women should understand that our situation today is not easy. Many men sign contracts and volunteer to defend the motherland. This, in turn, makes it even more important for our Russian women to remain faithful to their Russian men and continue to love them. As State Duma deputy Vitaly Milanov also expressed skepticism about China's idea.
Very few of our girls want to marry a foreigner because they understand what it means. It's important for a girl to speak the same language as her beloved and to think in a similar way. Chinese society is completely different, with a different approach to life. There'll never be the same kind of romance. It's like one artificial flower instead of a bouquet.
Moreover, Russia is actively addressing its own demographic challenges in every possible way. In October, the Russian State Duma passed bills that prohibit the promotion of the so-called child-free ideology, which advocates for a life without children. Additionally, the bills propose imposing fines for the dissemination of such views.
It's been said more than once from this rostrum today that the country is dying out. Preventing this extinction is our task, our duty and our responsibility to future generations. But for these future generations to exist, we must take care of and protect our youth, and above all, shield them from this ideology that advocates for the refusal to have children. In fact, this ideology is a deliberate anti-demographic information sabotage against our country. On Chinese social networks, opinions are divided with regards to importing brides. Most female users have compared the initiative to human trafficking, while men have generally supported the idea. They argue that foreign women don't have such high expectations of marriage as their Chinese counterparts. They also don't require large financial input.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching Eastern Europe Review. We will be back next week with our new reports. I'm Alexandra Shapalina. Keep watching TVP World and see you next time.